Well, our little video just got cut off. I hope it's saved, but if not, we were just talking about biting hands and how to stop puppy biting. So we take our thumb and push straight down on their tongue into their mouth. So we're gonna do it again because she's biting on our hands again. We're gonna get her up. Come here, Bun. Good girl. So have your leash on so you can control them a little bit. And so she goes, she's not as much biting on my hands anymore because we did those little couple corrections. If she's biting on my hair, same thing. Take my thumb, push it into her tongue. If they get excited and want to kind of fight back, just hold them, let them calm down, and then pet them when they're being nice and calm and relaxed. She's a good girl. So just like a mama dog, we're not going to bend down and use our teeth to bite her. Although I do know some people that do that, whatever, teach their own. But good girl. So a mama dog, if they're coming up and biting too hard, she would go and snap at them. So basically put them in their place. You can't play like that. She's gonna monitor how they can play and how rough they can play. Same thing with puppies when they're playing together. If one's biting too hard, the other one will scream or bite back a little harder. So those are little things that's like, hey, that's, you know, it's their way of saying that was too much, that hurts me. So by just doing that little exercise there, she's really calmed down. This is the stuff that we want to pet and reward and soothe and tell her she's a good girl for, because this is the kind of dog that we want. When you're getting pet, it's time to calm and relax. We can get her back into that play mode really easily, pull out a toy, give her something to chew on. But we do need to stop the biting. A lot of people want to play the swap out game. So if your puppy's biting you, they say, here, give it something that it can bite, which is great, but that doesn't stop the biting of your hand. It's actually, if you think about it, it's rewarding the biting. So your dog, just like, you know, if they're doing something, if your dog sits and you pull out a toy or a treat to reward them, they're gonna do more sits. So if we think about it logically, if the dog is biting your hands and all of a sudden something else shows up for them to bite that is fun, that's a reward. So we're actually rewarding the dog for biting our hands. That's not the idea behind it when people are saying to do that. It's to redirect the biting. But if you want to stop biting, that is the way to do it. One thumb straight down on the tongue. You'll have to do it a few times, and you want to do it until they actually want to get away from it. So you push until they're like, whoa, whoa, I'm gonna back off. Good girl, bye. Good girl. Good girl. So the other thing that we're doing with her is a lot of desensitizing. So I have another desensitizing video with a little bit older dog. He's about a year old, and it goes a lot slower. I'm not as, like on my puppies, I'm a little bit more forceful just because they can take it and they're not gonna get upset about it or try to really do damage with biting. So the dog that I was using is super, super good, but with your typical everyday dog, if you pick up their paw, you don't want to put too much pressure that they want to freak out and bite. You just want to do a little bit and then let them have it back and reward that. But with puppies, I am a little bit more forceful. So just because we want to desensitize them to things like touch. I was looking at Miss Bonnie, I was looking at something in her eye. She had an eye booger or something that I was getting out, and she was trying to pull her head away, and I was holding on to her face, kind of holding on to her cheeks and telling her to be still, and she continued to pull away, and then she went to biting my hands. And so it's, if those dogs don't learn when they're this size that that's unacceptable, that when I'm holding you, this is, for instance, for a vet office. Sometimes you need to have their head be still, put them in a nice hold, look in their ears, look in their eyes. It's a nice examination. So if we don't practice that stuff, they're not gonna know how to do it properly when they get to the vet, especially if they're in a scary environment, they've never been to the vet before, or it's, you know, it's just anything new to dogs is typically a little bit scary. So if we don't practice them being able to be touched and held in a certain way that might be uncomfortable, especially if they're hurt, they're gonna probably try to either fight or flight. And so if they can't get away because they're on a leash, they're stuck in a room, they're being restrained, they're gonna try to fight it. And so that's when dogs have to be muzzled. They're more stressed out if they don't know how to do these things. So we're setting their skill sets up for the future that they might need them. So what we do is we just practice that stuff. We hold her little face here, and if she's resisting it all, it's easier when they're calm. When they're tired and calm, this is a lot easier. If they're wound up and all that stuff, which she was, but we just stopped her biting, so she kind of calmed down. But what we're gonna be doing, so she's gonna start wiggling away right now. There she goes. So even just holding them on their lap, if they're trying to get away, wait until they relax and then put them down. Because what we're teaching them is if you fight and thrash around, I'm gonna push you down. So later, when they're trying to get away from something, they say, oh, fighting and thrashing around worked before. And if you need them to be still and you hold on to them, they're gonna start fighting and thrashing even more. So what we need to teach them is when I hold on to you and restrain you a little bit, you calm down, relax, and be still. And then as soon as you do that, that's when you get rewarded and you let go. So that's really, really important for these young puppies to learn. So say I need to look in her eye or look at her teeth. So she's kind of fighting me a little bit. There's her butt and her tiny little tail. So we're just gonna hold her face. You can support the back of her head. And even if you have like a second of calmness, if she's trying to get away, pull her back in. Good. So there, it was almost a second of calmness, but then she went to thrashing again. What we're gonna do, so she's going to bite my hands now. You guys, I can't stress how important this is. It seems a little bit silly, but it's not. This is the reason why dogs have such a hard time at the vet, why they have to be drugged, why they have to be muzzled, all of these things, because nobody can restrain them. And you have to think of, this dog is gonna be 80 to 100 pounds. Can you imagine this Mastiff breed being this large fighting a person because you can't look in its ear or its eye or look at its teeth? Look at that, as soon as I go to look at her teeth, she starts moving away. So if we don't stop this now, what do you think the future is gonna bring? So we let them thrash and fight and get away, and they learn, oh, that works. I got my way and I'm, getting to not get my teeth looked at. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're teaching them and desensitizing them to this stuff when they're little. Good. Good girl. So even that moment of calmness, when I was putting a little bit of restraint on her and she settled in and was calm and relaxed, that's when I let go. So she learns, oh, if I relax, that's how I get my way. Good girl. So even that, she threw her head back, I held her head. As soon as she's calm, I relax and tell her she's a good girl. Same thing with the ears. So I'm gonna look in her ear. So she starts thrashing her head. I'm gonna hold her head. You can hold their skin. They're not as fragile as you think they are. They may scream when you first do this. I've been doing this a little bit with her, so she's used to it. So hold their body, help them out a little bit. Don't let them get freaked out more. Good. So even her just relaxing like that, that's when I take the pressure off and tell her she's a good girl. Good girl. Good. So lift up her gum, just like this. Again, hold her face. So I'm not gonna try to go for her gums yet because she's thrashing like this. So we're gonna take it one step at a time. Good. So just holding her chin. And this isn't fun. This isn't the stuff that people sign up for when they get a puppy. But this is the stuff that dogs get rehomed for because they can't control their puppies. They can't stop puppy biting. They can't have them be still, or the kid comes up and the dog bites them, whatever it is. Can you imagine a 90-pound dog doing this? I've seen it. They have to drug them, and then they can't go to the vet. Look at this, you guys. This stuff starts right now. So now she's resorting to biting. People say, oh, it's just puppy stuff, it'll go away. No, it gets worse. That's all it is, it gets worse. So we're gonna hold on to her. Good. Good girl. Good. So even that second that she relaxes, I'm gonna reward that. You can handle them a little bit. Look in this ear. Good girl, Bond. Good. Good girl. So as soon as I go to grab her face, that's when she starts thrashing. So I'm gonna hold on to her. A little bit of force, don't let go, don't let them bite you. You can adjust your grip a little bit, make them more comfortable in it so they don't start getting more thrashy. But the point is that you're not gonna let go until they relax. That's how they get their way. It's not by fighting you. So position them in a way that they are comfortable. Like I said, this is easier when they're calm and relaxed and tired, which she is none of those things right now. I'm gonna hold on to her face. Even that second, I could have let go then. But if you're not sure, just hold on a little longer. You can make it easier for her by scratching her ears. The rubbing the ears is kind of just distracting to them. It's kind of taking their focus off of what you're doing. But again, I just do that so she calms down and then I can grab my hold again. I don't want to distract her out of paying attention to what I'm doing, because as soon as that distraction is away, she's like, oh wait, I was freaking out about that. So we want to make sure. Good girl. Good girl. Oh, Bon, you're so cute. Good. Again, lift up her little lip. See how she goes to throw her head and bite? Just imagine, 90-pound dog doing this. That's what gets them in shelter and be put down. We can prevent so much of this by just doing this stuff. I cannot stress it enough, you guys. This looks silly, like I said, but it isn't. This is the stuff that will be helpful later in your dog's life. So you wait until they relax. Quit trying to bite. There's your good girl. Good girl. There's your good girl. Good. So really, if you can just mess with your dog, play with their paws, do it in a way that makes sense to them. I know people that they're like, oh, we played with their paws when they were little, all that stuff. It's applying some pressure. And if they lick or do this or try to bite your hand, and do the same thing. So now she's resorting to biting this hand. Gonna make her comfortable again. Get her in that nice sit. No. Good. So when dogs are licking your hand, I actually talk about this in my other desensitizing video with the older dog. Good, but now she's biting in the leash. That's kind of the same as biting the hand, just biting stuff. And that's not what I said in the last video. But I want her, this is also a distraction. I want her paying attention to what I'm doing, so I'm gonna hold her up. So she still has access to the leash. Just kidding, we don't want that. Good. So here, I'm not gonna let go of her paw, I'm gonna switch hands. Oh, she doesn't want me doing the tongue thing again. Don't let them get away with it though. I can use a little bit of an interrupter noise. But then I want her to relax after that. Licking is better, but it's still not what I want. No. Okay. No. Helping her out, moving the paw away. She can't really get to my hand. Still distracted. That's better. I'll let her go there. That was good. So that was the first time we haven't done the paws yet. So again, pick up the paw, wait for her to relax. So they'll still throw their head around. That doesn't mean relaxed. There it was. Good girl. Let's do the other one. So I'm holding her head a little bit just to help her out. Good. She can still access my hand, as you can see. And pull her away. Put her back in that little sit. Make sure she's not biting other things. No. Hold her head away. She's still kind of thinking about it. There. We waited for the little, she took a little breath, a sigh. We'll wait for that because she relaxed into it. Good. I'll do this one again. Good girl. There's not really a reaction. She was still looking at it, thinking about maybe if she could get over there, maybe I'll bite that little hand. Good. But with these puppies, you guys, this stuff doesn't take long. If you push through that initial nonsense, this stuff can go really, really quickly. And then they just get over it. So stretch that leg out a little bit. Good girl. Good. Do this one. Hold that paw. You want to make it a little bit uncomfortable. If they're struggling, start where it's easier. Make it more comfortable for them. But once you progress, good girl. Good girl. And there's some avoidance. You can see she's just like, okay, whatever, I give up. That's great. We want that. We want her to submit to this stuff. She's really great at being put on her back. That's another thing that you can practice with them. She's still biting. So you see her biting like that. Good. And get that leash out of her mouth so she's paying attention to what we're asking her to do. I always tell my clients, you gotta get the dog's attention before you ask them to do something. So there, I'm gonna put my thumb back in her mouth to stop that biting. If they go to bite again, do it again. Do it harder, whatever you need to. Good girl. As soon as she stops biting, that's when I tell her she's a good girl. Let's wait for them to relax. Good girl. This is how you get bomb-proof dogs, you guys. This is how you get dogs that are way better with children, less likely to bite in the future. You teach them to stop biting now. It's one of their main ways of communicating with each other. It's this, our world is foreign to them. We have to teach them in a way that they understand, speak their language, in order to get the results that are going to be beneficial in our life and theirs later. Good girl, Bon Bon. So again, you can play with their paws. Good girl. Gonna look at her teeth again. See her pulling her head away there. Good. Good girl. Good. So does it help that she was on her back? I don't think so. I think it helps that we were doing this stuff. So here, she's getting fidgety again. Just gonna hold her. Good. No. So I can say no, then do that little correction. And if they get amped up after it, just hold them. Wait for them to relax. They also need to be taught what a correction is. Sometimes they need to do it a few times. Like, oh, okay, maybe I won't do that anymore. So there I actually stuck my hand in her mouth to make her stop biting my sweatshirt because she learned that I shouldn't bite this hand. So here we're gonna go back to, good. So she even thinks about putting her teeth on my hands, I'm gonna have that correction ready. One thumb straight down on the tongue. All right, so we're gonna wait. Even this, if she's done being on her back, put her back on her back, wait for her to relax, and then you ask her to get up. These little tiny moments, you guys, they're so important. I know this is a long video, but this is what it takes. And in real time, this didn't take very much. Yeah, it's almost 20 minutes. But if you can do this once a week, every day, if you can, you're gonna get a freaking bomb-proof dog. But let's talk about how you can do this improperly. If you're going to do this and you let go at the wrong moment, you let go when she's tense, trying to pull away, you say, oh, she didn't bite me, and then she pulls away, she's still fighting you. You have to wait for them to relax. That's the cue. This is negative reinforcement. If we're talking about operant conditioning and what quadrant it is of learning. Good girl, you wait for them to relax. We're gonna go back to her teeth because that's where she was struggling more. She's doing well with the paws. See this? Whatever you're struggling with, go after it. If you need to make it easier, you can. Take your time, do your steps. But, so she really doesn't like being her head being held. We're gonna make her comfortable, sitting on her lap. She's gonna be too big for this. She's already 20 pounds, you guys. It's gonna be a pain in the butt. Good girl. So there she kind of threw her head. Good. So we're distracting her a little bit with the pet to make it easier on her, and then we pause, see what she does. That's when we let go, when she actually relaxes on her own, even without the distraction of the petting. So here we're gonna do it again. Good girl. So as soon as she relaxes, and then you build up that duration, because at the vet, she might need to do that for a minute. I had to do it for my dog the other day, and guess what? all my puppies that I raise, they even, you know, some of my rehab dogs that I do this work with and counter condition them. And you can do this with an older dog, it just takes a lot more time. And sometimes you got to use treats with this to really counter condition them. But this desensitizing stuff you can do with a lot of touch if your dog's comfortable. So it's just a slower acclimation to it. Like I said, I'm a lot more forceful with puppies because they're not as dangerous. So, good girl. She's really relaxing into this now. Doesn't take long, you guys. So, all my dogs at the vet, when I go in there, my dog had to get they took a scalpel to his eyebrow and started scraping until it bled. This is regular vet protocol, you guys. This is what they do behind the scenes, behind the doors. Anyway, I was holding my dog's face, and typically it's the vets that do it, but he would have been acted pretty much the same. But they hold their face, and they have to take a scalpel and scrape it until it bleeds to get skin cells off of there. And they said, you need to give your dog so much praise because after the fact, like, you need to go home and give him a cookie because he did so well. She said, every dog that I do this to, we have to sedate because they just don't do this. Yes, I was in the room. Yes, I was handling my own dog, but most owners can't do this to their own dogs. She's really relaxing into this. It's awesome. So practice this stuff. I cannot stress it enough, you guys. This is what keeps dogs in homes and out of shelters. It seems ridiculous, but it's true. This is the stuff, desensitizing them to touch, training your dog. This is all the holistic side of training. But all of my dogs, you can do whatever you need to, even if they're in pain, even if you need to cause a little pain for their betterment. You know, it was a test that we were doing on his skin. Good boy. Girl. I was thinking of Earl when we were doing the scraping on his face. But, you know, it's really important to do this, you guys. If I brought cookies or food or treats into this right now, it would be too much. It would hyper way back up and get her too distracted with the treats in order to do this exercise. So do your treat training on the side, do the desensitizing, do your, calming exercises, do this all so then you can later put all the pieces together and you have the best well-rounded dogs in the world. All right, you guys. This is our first little training session of desensitizing Bonnie to touch and stopping puppy biting. All right, we'll talk to you soon.